facing the police every single day.
Out of office.
But Broward's former top at 10. Now at 10, the governor taking action.
I have issued an executive order suspending Scott Isreal.
A massive show of support from Parkland parents.
Our community and our kids will be much safer now that Sheriff Isreal is out of office.
But Broward's former top cop says this is not over.
I intend to vigorously fight this unjustified suspension.
The night team working a day filled with...
I look forward to a sheriff who trains his staff members and his law enforcement to do just that, to run in and to protect the way that they promised they would do.
This was about politics, not about Parkland.
Passion and politics.
Hello and welcome, everyone. The decision to remove Scott Isreal from office is part of what Governor Desantis calls his pledge to hold government officials accountable.
We have Live Night Team coverage. Jeff Lennox's reaction from the suspended sheriff. But first, Nicole Ensalada at BSO headquarters with more on the action taken by the new governor. Nicole?
Well, Craig, ever since Ron DeSantis won the election for governor, it seemed like this was coming. It was maybe the worst kept secret that he planned to suspend Scott Isreal, and it was just a matter of time, and it happened this afternoon. Governor Ron DeSantis made the expected announcement.
I have issued an executive order suspending Scott Isreal as the sheriff of Broward County.
But the family members of those who died at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School took center stage.
My little boy Alex is no longer here because he was murdered at Marjory Stoneman Douglas on Valentine's Day 2018. The MSD Commission found fault with 9 different deputies' actions. Their actions, along with Scott Isreal's failed and inadequate policies, procedures, and training, has made Broward County less safe.
My daughter died on the 3rd floor of MSD, running down the hallway from an active shooter. One more second and she makes it into the stairwell. She needed one more second. If anybody wants to know what failure means and lack of response, my daughter would have lived if somebody could have just given her one more second.
The massacre might never have happened had Broward had better leadership in the sheriff's department.
I never did anything political before my daughter was murdered at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Our community and our kids will be much safer now that Sheriff Isreal is out of office.
I promised I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to do it. There's a new sheriff in town. Thank you.
That new sheriff, former Coral Springs Police Sergeant Gregory Toney, Broward's now first black sheriff. The 40-year-old is a former sergeant with the Coral Springs Police Department who served 5 years on the SWAT team. He founded a private security company that specialized in active shooter training programs, including for civilians. He was sworn in as Broward County Sheriff Friday afternoon.
I have served with many of these men and women during my law enforcement career, and they are not self-serving. They have the community interest at their heart, as do I.
And many of these Parkland families really have high hopes for the leadership under Gregory Toney. And in fact, Debbie Hickson is the widow of Chris Hickson. He was one of those adults who ran in to try to protect the students. And she says that she hopes that under Gregory Toney, that this will be the culture now of the Broward Sheriff's Office. The deputies will run in and try to protect victims. Reporting live at BSO headquarters outside of Fort Lauderdale, Nicole Ensalada, 7 News, Night Team.
Nicole, our night team coverage continues now with 7's Jeff Lennox. He's live with reaction from Scott Isreal to today's developments. Jeff.
Well, Belkis, just minutes after Governor Ron DeSantis announced that he will be suspending Scott Isreal from his post, here at BSO behind me, Scott Isreal had his rebuttal for the governor ready to go. Scott Isreal suspended.
There was no wrongdoing on my part. I served the county honorably.
But the embattled, now former leader of BSO, not going down without a fight to keep his post. Isreal surrounded by supporters at the New Mount Olive Baptist Church in Fort Lauderdale on Friday.
Let me be clear. I wholeheartedly reject the statements in the governor's executive order as lacking both legal merit and a valid factual basis.
The suspended sheriff at odds with the new governor, calling his move to suspend one of the governor's campaign promises.
This was about politics, not about Parkland.
Isreal also discussed plans to get his title back once the Florida Senate is back in session come March.
I intend to vigorously fight this unjustified suspension, both in court and before the Florida Senate.
The facts do not warrant that Sheriff Isreal, Mr. Isreal standing before you today, in any way was incompetent in connection with this horrendous shooting.
In recent years, Isreal has faced scrutiny for how his department handled 2 mass shootings at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport and Marjory Stoneman. Isreal acknowledging the Parkland school victims in his rebuttal to the governor.
Once again, I want to extend my deepest sympathies, my heartfelt sympathies to the families who lost loved ones that dreadful day in Parkland.
But also saying this.
No one was suspended after the Pulse shooting. No one was suspended in 2017 after the mass shooting at an Orlando factory. The difference? I spoke out about gun violence.
Right before Governor DeSantis made his decision, 5 BSO command staff members resigned from the force, as Isreal now finds himself no longer chief in command, instead in a lone fight to return to the top.
For now, it's on to court.
Again, Scott Isreal can fight to have his title as sheriff here at BSO reinstated on March 5th. That is when the Florida Senate reconvenes in Tallahassee. We're live near Fort Lauderdale tonight outside BSO headquarters. Jeff Lennox, 7 News Night Team.
Governor Ron DeSantis has suspended Broward County Sheriff Scott Isreal. Isreal, the leader of a law enforcement team that stumbled badly during the Parkland shooting, was forced out of office in a rare move that highlighted 10 months of inaction and misstatements. DeSantis suspended Isreal just days after taking over as governor. He responded to mounting evidence that sheriff's deputies and commanders fumbled their duties on February 14th when responding to a gunman at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Undertrained deputies took cover and failed to confront the killer, the agency's radio system collapsed, and commanders failed to take command. Even before the massacre, the sheriff's office mishandled tips that the gunman wanted to shoot up a school. Isreal also faced criticism for leadership during the shooting at the Fort Lauderdale airport. After that, Isreal failed to address problems that would later cripple the response in Parkland. For the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, I'm Emma Kate Austin.
I have issued an executive order suspending Scott Isreal as the sheriff of Broward County. And I have appointed Gregory Toney as the new sheriff of Broward County. Now, the neglect of duty and the incompetence that was connected to the massacre at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School has been well documented, and I have no interest in dancing on Scott Isreal's political grave. Just suffice it to say that the massacre might never have happened had Broward had better leadership in the sheriff's department. The Parkland families, the people of Broward, and the broader Florida community want accountability, but I think just as important or more important, they want the problems fixed going forward. And in their own ways, these Parkland families have all worked hard so that others won't have to experience the horrors of losing a child.
Hey Sheriff County, this is Sheriff County COPWATCH. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.